Hi, I'm author Missy Jane. On Facebook, I'm MJ Aragon. I write obviously erotic romance in just contemporary and fantasy and paranormal settings. I'm going to, in the chat, put my link tree where you can find everything about me online. If anybody has any questions for me, I don't know if there's any of my readers in the audience right now, feel free to let me know now. If not, I was going to go ahead and just read from one of my books. Get that in front of me right now. So before I start, any questions, comments, criticisms from anybody? Okay. So this one is called Erotic Images. This is actually one of the first books that I wrote and had published through Alora's Cave, which was an erotic romance publisher that has since gone out of business. But this one is the first of what will be a three-book series. Book one and two are out, and I'm still working on book three. This one is, again, Erotic Images. Love creeps up when you least expect it. This is the blurb. Lynn Graves is desperate for money to pay off the debt left behind after her divorce. So when she comes across an ad from an erotic photographer looking for a model, the answer is easy. However, being shy and slightly inexperienced aren't exactly traits needed for her to take off all her clothes for the world to see. A photographer with years of experience under his belt, Weston Myers is pretty sure he's seen it all. However, he's never encountered a woman with the natural beauty and grace that Lynn exhibits. He knows his camera is going to love her from the first moment he sees her, but convincing her of it won't be easy. Once her clothes come off, attraction hits hard, but it's the quiet moments between them that are the real kicker. With a stalking ex-husband and Lynn's insecurities, Wes has his work cut out for him. He'll do whatever it takes to make Lynn believe he wants more between them than her erotic images. So I'm going to read just a short excerpt from this story. This is the first time she models for him. The old-fashioned clock on the wall ticked loudly as Lynn did her best to pretend she was at the doctor's office. Surely no one but her gynecologist had ever studied her vagina so well as Wes was currently. Not even Harold, the husband she'd had for 5 years, who had become her ex nearly a year ago. She wasn't certain Harold knew much about women's bodies anyway, but he'd certainly never looked and touched all the places on hers Wes had over the past 3 weeks. Sorry, this is not the first time. This is just when I think the first time I'm talking about it in the book. She wanted to laugh at the realization that only a few days had passed since she'd met Wes. It seemed so natural to lounge against the satin pillows as his fingers danced across her skin like a well-known lover's. It had taken 2 hours the first day for her to open her legs to his camera. Once the initial shock over exactly what he wanted to shoot wore off, she was able to relax and actually enjoy it. He never once pointed the lens at her face, and the promised anonymity allowed her mind to wander as he did his work. His touch was always gentle and careful, though his fingers had explored every secret her body held. There was no place on her he hadn't seen, and few he hadn't caught with the camera's eye. Their routine now included her sleeping in his guest room most nights. She'd fought it at first, but a couple of very long nights made her cave. Wes began picking her up from her night job at the grocery store and dropping her off at the call center in the mornings, despite her insistence on driving herself. She'd asked him to deduct gas from her pay, but he'd refused. His concern and generosity exasperated her. How could she remain professional when he wouldn't? She didn't dare bring it up in conversation out of fear of what he might say. I need you to touch yourself, baby doll. His softly spoken words brought her back to the present with a slight jolt. He lifted a brow in acknowledgement and she blushed. The newest endearment was getting to her more than the initial sweetheart and honey ever did. It seemed more personal, and there had been a definite change in his tone the past few days. He'd been touching her more, and each caress became less professional. Her breath caught when he set his camera aside and pressed his palms against the insides of her thighs. He spread her legs wider and studied her feminine core so closely she should have felt violated. However, her pulse raced with anticipation, and moisture coated her lower lips. A soft moan escaped before she could temper it. So again, this is erotic images, the first book in this series. And as I said, I had originally written it for Laura's Cave. And when I decided to republish it, it's self-published now, it's available on Amazon and like, I had to I had to go back through the manuscript and make some changes because this book was written over a decade ago. And so originally she in the opening scenes goes to a payphone and calls and leaves him a message on his answering machine. And she didn't have a cell phone. Um, I can't remember. There were other little things like that, just generational changes that not only this book, but other books that I've republished that I had to reread them and find those things and think, okay, this has to be updated because obviously she wouldn't go to a payphone now. She would leave him a voicemail. She would use a cell phone. She would text him. So it was actually really funny going back through my book, this one and the next one, which is let's see, it's erotic images and erotic influence, and making those little changes that we have now. And like if I were to write this book again 10 years in the future, there would be even more changes. She would ask Google for advice on things and stuff that she wouldn't have done when I wrote it originally. So again, if anybody is interested in reading more of that book, my link tree is there, and if you click on that and go to the draft to digital link, that'll get you to all the ebook links at all the various retailers. Um, that one is not available in print yet, but I have other erotic romance contemporary books that are. Anybody have any questions for me or comments?
I have
I
a
could,
question.
yes, go ahead.
So I know you were with when you mentioned that you were with Aloris. What's different after having been with like a big publisher like Laura's Cave versus doing it on your own? Or is it easier on your own? Like, what are some of those
So
positives?
when I first started trying to get published, I went to the specific publishers and looked at their book covers first because I'm really picky about book covers for my own books and even sometimes the books that I read. And I chose ones that I liked the way that their art was, that the way their book covers were. And that's mostly who I submitted to. And so I ended up at Sam Hain and Alora's Cave and a couple of other ones. And they were pretty good about asking for feedback on covers. When I was with Entangled, they were not. That was actually a pretty bad experience, to be honest. So when I got my rights back to everything and had to recover my books, I mean, I have to cover the full expense now, but I have complete control over my book covers. And more so than the editing and the marketing and everything else. I mean, if I had to give up the control on everything else that I do for my books and I could only keep one thing, it would be the book covers. So that's the plus in me doing it myself now. But the negative again is the money. I have to pay for those book covers now. I have to pay for the editing. I have to pay for all the marketing and all of that. Plus, it's just me getting the word out. I don't have a publisher behind me telling all of their audience, "Hey, we have a new book out. Check it out. This is our new author," or whatever. So yeah, that's the biggest change, really. But there's pluses and minuses to both, to being traditionally published. There are still, even as prevalent as self-publishing is now, there's still a lot of people who turn their nose up at self-published authors who, when you say, "Hey, I'm an indie author," they won't even look at you. There are some bookstores that won't even entertain the idea of you doing events with them and stuff. So, um, that's one thing about being traditionally published is you have that behind you to say, "Hey, I'm traditionally published." And it opens some doors that being self-published does not. But I have come to learn that those doors are ones that I didn't want to walk through anyway after getting to know those venues better. So it's okay. It's worked out just fine. Any other questions? So, for all, I know there's a lot of authors also in the audience, or I don't know how big my audience is right now, but um, Skylar knows we used to do Comic Palooza a few years at the same time and do different panels and stuff. And I have a panel that I would give called The Business of Writing. And it's really more for someone who's just getting started. I don't know if everybody's a veteran already and having their books published or if you know how many indies we have, but it's kind of everything that it touches a little bit on a lot of subjects. So I have it in a PDF format, and it's something that I like to give out to authors that I meet who are just getting started and want advice on self-publishing, on marketing, on, again, it's just the business of writing. So if there is anybody who would like that, I've just put my email in the chat. Feel free to email me, and just in the subject line, you can put panel or business of writing or whatever, and I'll reply and I'll just send you that PDF. But again, it's just kind of my advice on a lot of different things that have to do with getting your book out there. Anything else? Anybody? So I believe that the book that I had Skylar promote for me was one of my newest erotic romances called Breakfast in Bed. And when I first started writing, the way that I write my characters, most of my, actually pretty much all of my heroines have dark hair, usually frizzy curly like mine, brown eyes, because I identify with
Can y'all
those
hear me?
things. Yes, I did hear you for a second. Okay, but not anymore if you're
Uh,
still. Yes, now we hear you.
hold on.
We're
All
gonna
right, how
take
about
over, Logan. We're gonna take over.
sorry.
That's okay. So anyway, back to this book, Breakfast in Bed. So this is the first book where I was a little more deliberate with my characters, especially my female, well, actually with all of my characters. My previous characters, I didn't really dive into their ethnicity or their culture, their personal culture a whole lot. I focused mostly just on the plot and the story more so than um, their diverse backgrounds, I guess you could say. So Breakfast in Bed is really the first one that I was very intentional with. My characters are Mexican American, like I am. Um, the things that happen in the book are from the view of a Mexican American household. You know, they speak Spanglish in some instances, and the things that they experience are taken kind of from some of my own experiences just with life. And so this book is kind of special to me because, again, it's the first one where I was very intentional with the way that I wrote these characters, and their ethnicity and their background. And I had made a conscious decision a few years ago to start doing that with my characters, to start making them, especially the female characters, they're going to be Mexican American because I am. And I can write from that viewpoint and that experience and know what I'm talking about. A little bit more intentionally than I had been before. So I had mentioned uh, this morning about having to change to my Facebook. And so that's why the name on my Facebook is MJ Aragon, which is a family name. And I had to change it from Missy Jane because I got hacked and it was just a whole thing. But when I'm thinking of diving into some other genres when I write some new books, and so I'll probably be switching to that pen name from Missy Jane. I'm still going to have all these Missy Jane books out. I'm still releasing Alora's Cave books that I believe when they closed down, I had like 20 books, and they haven't all been released yet, so or re-released in my self-published uh, works yet. So I'm still working on that as well as some new stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But if you have any questions for me or comments, or again, if you want that Business of Writing PDF, again, my email is in the chat and my link tree is in the chat. So feel free to reach out to me that way. But I think my time is just about up unless anybody has any questions. I'm going to also put a link directly to Breakfast in Bed in the chat.
Thanks so much, Missy. That was wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you for
you.
having me. I appreciate it.